Hi all, Lee here. So if you remember the last video, I managed to complete the neck. It fits in the body nicely. I'm really happy with how that's turned out. So now we need to try and finish this body off. So where are we? If you remember, I've already routed out the major pockets into the guitar. So all I'm thinking of now is what sort of other cuts do I want to put on this and what other features do I want? For example, do I want a belly cut cut out the back of this? Do I want an arm section, just an angle cut off the top of the body there? I haven't decided. Since this is a prototype, I'm sort of free to practice with it and see what I like. But on consideration, I think I might leave it as a slab and just put a couple of features in. So the main features I want to put in are, I just want to smooth this edge out. So I have a router bit, a round over router bit that I can go around the entire body to smooth that out. And the other thing I want to do is just put a couple of recesses in into here, just to make it, especially for the bottom of the body, because it will just make it a little easier to reach the higher frets. So they're the main features. I just want to round off this edge, and then also what I'll do is I'll sand down a couple of little concave areas just into here. So not all the way through, just at an angle, just to give a little more clearance. So that's what I think I'm going to do. So the first step for this is let's round off the edges. So I'll get the router ready and we can do that now. Okay, so that went pretty well. Smoothed off the edge. I'll still manually sand a bit more when I finally finish the body. Obviously, I need to take it to different grades to really smooth it off, but I'm pleased with that so far. I'm still deciding about these small cutaways just in the just here. But what I'm also thinking is the trend at the moment is to actually either angle or cut away the back where the plate to hold the neck on goes. So I'm just trying to think what I might want to do here, because the body is relatively thick. This body I think is about, must be about 50 millimeters. The reason it's so thick is so it can fit in the tremolo properly, because the bridge block actually goes quite deep into the guitar. So I've left just enough room for the block to still be able to move it. But of course that leaves quite a thick area here to get your hand round when you're trying to play at the higher frets. So what I'm thinking is maybe my design could just be to route out a small section, maybe, I don't know, a 0.5 millimeter thick. Maybe 5 millimeters thick into the back of here. And that could be my design, and then I can fit the plate into that and remove some of this material to make it a little bit thinner and easier to handle high up the fretboard. Okay, so what I'm thinking to fit the plate in and to take some material off, just to make it a bit easier to reach those frets. So I'm thinking if I just draw some sort of semicircle across the back of this and try and connect up where the two horns are. So just at the edge of the horn, I come all the way around and then connect to that horn as well. That's what I'm thinking. So let's just see if I can draw some sort of line. So if I cut this piece out and just take it down 5 millimeters, that'll be my version of sort of the cutaway on the heel, because the heel is quite thick. I think there may be some other brands that do something similar, but I'm not familiar with which ones do. But I think that's what I'm going to go for. So I'll just set up the router and I'll just cut 5 millimeters in using this as a template, and then route all of that flat. And then the idea is I can still bolt this on flat. I know there are some designs where they put an angle on the heel, but I want to try and stay away from an angle because that just makes it a little bit harder for me to cut. A lot of those angles, they're all cut by CNC machines, and obviously I want to hand build my guitars, so I still need to have some element. Well, I need to make it easy to be able to produce over and over again the type of design that I want. So I think this is probably the best method. I'll just cut into this slightly. So let's set up the router and we'll take a cut. I'm really happy how that has turned out. So it looks pretty good. It's taken a bit of relief off, so it should make it slightly easier to reach the higher frets. So I'm quite pleased with that. It looks nice, it feels quite nice. I've already sanded it and rounded it off. So that's a job well done. I'm pleased with that as a feature, and it's fairly simple to do. It's also quite a modern feature, as I mentioned before. A lot of the latest modern guitars from all the major brands are starting to cut some sort of relief into the back to make it easier to reach the frets. To be honest, it's probably a little bit of a gimmick because it hasn't stopped many a guitarist over many years from playing, even with the old-fashioned big slabs of Gibson. So, but it's a nice feature to have, and it makes the guitar a little more modern, shall we say. So the next thing I was actually looking at is just some sort of cover for the controls. So all I've done is I've literally just cut out a small cardboard template, matched it to the edge of the body, and then just pull it in slightly, just so I can try and work out how I would put a template on there. Because I'm not going to do two separate ones, I'm just going to have one big template that covers all of the controls in one go. The only extra thing I need to add, obviously, because this is a tremolo bridge and you string it into the block, I'll just need to cut a slot somewhere in this template. But I'm pretty happy with that. I'll just keep that for later. I do have some big squares of acrylic, and I will just cut this particular shape out and refine it, and then I'll use that as my template in the future, obviously. But this looks pretty good. It seems to fit well. It looks pretty symmetrical. It's nice and square. So I'll use that later when I finally cut out the cover for these controls. So what is the next job? I think the next job is going to be just cutting some relief into here, primarily for the bottom, again, to reach the higher frets. But to do that, I need a sanding drum. So I'm actually quite pleased with that. I think that will be plenty enough. Like I say, it's a prototype. I quite like this, but I'll be able to tell more once I actually play the guitar to see if it actually makes a difference. But I think it looks okay. It makes my guitar a little more unique because obviously you want to try and design your own slightly different style and shape. So I'm just going to tidy this up a bit with a bit of manual sanding, but I'm pretty happy with the way that's turned out. I think that will work fine. So after lots of sanding, I spared you the sanding. It's just a matter of going over it with lighter and lighter grades of sandpaper. I'm pretty happy with how it's looking at the moment. I could actually do a bit more sanding to iron out all the fine lines and things like that. But because this is a prototype, I don't want to put that much effort into it. It's more about the dimensions that are important. So I'm happy enough with how this is looking and feeling. I've already wiped it down as well to remove all of the sawdust. And it's looking pretty good. I'm quite happy with this. So all that's left to do now is put a layer of oil on it and see what it looks like. I think in the future what I'll do is I'll get a few cans of polyurethane and spray them, because the problem with oils is although it puts a nice hard surface on the wood, it actually darkens it, and sometimes I like the lighter colour of the wood. So that's the downside of using oil. It always makes the wood quite dark and antique-like. Even the natural and clear stuff seems to do that. But I've got oil for now, and again, that's absolutely fine for this prototype. So let's get on and put some oil on and see what happens. Okay, so that looks pretty good. It's just a thin layer of oil. I'm not sure how many coats I'll do. I might even only do one on this, but that's looking pretty good for now. So I'll leave that to dry and we'll take a closer look once it's dried. So I've finished just one coat of oil on the body, and I've also just bolted or screwed the neck into the body. So I made the holes on the back there. The holes for this, you put the neck into the socket and you drill 4mm all the way through into the neck, and then you just widen the body holes with a 5mm. They were the size screws I had. Because the screws shouldn't screw into the body, they should actually just push through the hole without screwing, and they only screw into the neck, and that way when you tighten them up it pulls the neck tight against the body. So this is looking pretty good so far. We're very close to putting it all together. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is put the tuners on the neck. So what I'll do is I'll unscrew this, now I've screwed it in and it fits tightly and nicely. And we'll put the tuners in the neck. There may be some small holes we need to drill into the head just to be able to mount the tuners, because they usually have a little pin to stop them twisting. But we'll take a look at that now. So I've gently clamped the neck to the bench, obviously with cloth, trying not to ruin the finish. As you can see, these tuners, they actually don't have the small pin that sometimes sticks up on these. They just have the screw. So hopefully all I'll need to do is slot these in, and then I'll just make a small dot in each of the screw holes and drill out a small hole. Excellent, tuners are in. They all look good. I'm really pleased with how that looks. So I think that is about it for the neck. So let's move on to the body and we'll start building that out. That looks pretty good to me. It's nice and square, fits in nicely. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. I think that's going to work really well. Okay, so I need to be quite careful. I'll take the bridge back out, turn the guitar over and screw the springs in. So let's do that now. So for the pickups, I'm not going to do anything special. I'm just going to mount them directly to the body with some small nylon washers just on the end of the screws. So that is all. They're just going to fit in there. I'm not using any sort of pickup surround or cover or anything like that. Just going to mount them straight in there. The reason is I don't know if I want to use these pickups. These are just a spare set. So I just want to put something in there, but the pickups are the 4-wire pickups, so I can split the coils on them using the electronics. So other than that, it's plain and simple. I just need to make 2 small dots in there, put some nylon washers on the end of these screws and just screw them in. And that is going to be enough for me just to get this set up. Excellent. That's all good enough for me now. I can always change and modify this. I could put some surrounds on there. I might even change the pickups depending on how well the tuning's set up. So I'm pleased with how this is. That's good enough for me. They're mounted on nylon washers, so everything should be pretty good and stable. So let's move on to the next job. We'll put the bridge back in and then we'll start doing the electronics. So the next job I need to do is actually put a hole in for the connector. I'm just trying to look at a good angle that I can get through there. So I've had a look at the size I need. I think I need, it looks like about a 22mm bit. And I've measured it up against there and it looks about right, so I can fit that through and the plate will cover it as well. So I've skipped ahead slightly. It took a while just to wire this in and I had to find out which pickups and the color code on the pickup wires. But I've set this up for the push-pull knob. But I just thought I'd show you what I've actually used here. So it's a company, Obsidian Wire. I think you can you see that okay? I think they're based in New Zealand, so these are quite expensive. If anyone knows of a UK manufacturer of this type of thing, I'd love to know. But I thought I'd give them a go. So it's an all-in-one printed circuit board with the knobs already put on there, and you actually wire your pickups directly into this block. And this block has just got little push levers on it. So you push the dots down, push the wire in, and then let go, and it actually locks the wire in place. So it saves on a lot of soldering. I thought I'd give them a try, because again, if I want to manufacture these, I want them to be of the highest quality to get as much money as I can for them. And I think this is a good solution rather than just soldering everything yourself. It also saves me a lot of time as well. And in the future, other people could modify the way their pickups work just by moving the pickup wires based on the instructions on this company's website. So that was the process. Everything looks good. It's all in. I have given it a quick test just to make sure the pickups are on and working, and they seem to be. So I'm really happy with this unit so far. The last things I need to do, I need to cut out the template for the cover. I have some acrylic available to do that. I've also drilled a small hole into the control cavity and the spring cavity, because you also need to earth the bridge, and you can do that here. So the next thing I'll need to do is just put a thin piece of wire through and attach it to the earth that is built onto this circuit board. So let's do that next. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. That's soldered on nicely. So the next thing to do is to actually cut out my template for the cover on the back, and I'll put some screws in to hold that on. Okay, so hopefully nice and simple for this. I just need to score around this shape, and I'll cut it out on the bandsaw and tidy the edge up. So I've just cut that out. It's pretty good. I'm just going to smooth up the edges with a piece of sandpaper, and then we'll attach it to the body. What I will do in future guitars is I'll actually put an edge on this just to bring it down, but for this one I won't do that for now. I just want to make sure it fits, and I've got a nice a template with a nice square edge I can use. So let's sand this down. So I've just rounded off the corners and taken a bit more off there. I'm pretty pleased with how that looks. It looks like there's a good edge. It follows the body nicely. So I can now use this for my template in the future. So all that's left to do is just hold that tight and just drill some very small holes. I'll only put 4 in, just 4 screws to hold this in. And that should be it for this. In later guitars though, I will probably put a few more screws in. But for now, 4 is enough for this, so let's get that done now. Excellent, so I'm really pleased with how this is looking. That fits on nicely. I'll reuse this as a template when I build my other guitars. Everything's looking pretty good. So before I do the final setup and put some strings on it, what I'm going to do is just rub over the guitar and just give it a quick buff up and polish, because there's a bit of dust everywhere. Obviously there's still a few bits and pieces that I've been doing. So let's just buff it up and then we'll get some strings on and start setting this up. So I've put the knobs and things on the guitar now. I'm really happy with how it's looking, but I'm going to bring this video to an end. I'm going to make another video on the final setup, but just to give you a quick preview of what it looks like so far, I think it's looking really good. So I'm pleased with how this has turned out so far. I think what I might do is during the setup, obviously I've put the neck under tension now, because the main thing I wanted to check was to see that the neck wood is actually stable, because what you sometimes find is you can't see little knots and defects inside the wood all of the time. And when you actually put the strings on and bring it to tension, you might sometimes see little twists or S-bends in the neck, and that's just to do with the stability of the wood. Now, if you're unfortunate enough to come across that, then in my opinion, some sort of neck bracing jig would be good, so you can try and level the frets with the neck under tension, because that's probably the only way you're going to fix that. This one looks to be still flat and straight even under tension, so it might just need a little truss rod adjustment just to give it a little more back bend on there, just to keep that level, but it's looking good so far. So catch me on the next video where we'll go through just setting up the bridge, making sure the intonation's correct, making sure the nut height is correct, and if necessary, after having a better look at the neck, I may even take the neck off and re-level the frets and refinish them, just to make it absolutely perfect. because this guitar I'll keep, you know, for myself to use. But if I can get this as perfect as possible, it means when I build the final templates to reproduce this, I know the position of everything, I know how it should be built, how it should all go together, and it should make it a lot more efficient in the future, building future guitars. So thanks for watching this one, and I'll catch you on the next one where we do some final setup of this guitar and we'll hear it as well. Catch you soon. Cheers.